So the Datchet Flyer was this previous weekend, and Storm Darragh came through, which meant that we were getting like 40 knot gusts pretty regularly. Saturday we were unfortunately not able to get out because the direction of the breeze meant that launching was going to be into an onshore breeze, and so there were some pretty big waves considering it's a reservoir, and with the concrete steep slipways, it was just not looking possible. And the other issue was those gusts were like minutes long. They weren't just short little stubby gusts, they were quite intense. So while there were periods where it was okay, it was more 40 knots than it wasn't 40 knots. But we managed to get out on the Sunday, as you can see here. This is just before the start of the first race. Unfortunately, while I was just trying to keep the boat still, for anyone who has sailed a 600, they don't really do staying still very well. It just got knocked by a wave and capsized over, and so I was just a couple minutes late to the start, but got away and was trying to go for a little bit of height here just to try and get myself through the line where I drifted a little bit. You'll see in a minute the pin end is this like orange pillar thing, but you can see I'm trying to pinch for as much height as I can, kind of heading up where I can, but then bearing away for the odd gust. It's pretty punchy at the bottom here with quite a lot of waves. You can see the committee boat on the right hand side at the moment actually, so I'm still quite below the line actually. But yeah, the issue here is it's so intense that I haven't properly got myself set up. I've got my control lines where I want them, but I'm too high on the trapeze really. Could kind of do with a bit more board up. And I was having a few issues with my rudder where it's the new rudder stock for the long RS blade. But there's a common issue that if you pull them all the way down, you get a little bit of lee helm. And I could really feel the rudder fighting me, which is really not what I needed on a day like today, where there's tons of breeze and tons of waves for a reservoir. And it's very shifty too. Now, something else I hadn't really thought about with Datchet is the fact that there's quite a few water towers. You can see one directly in front of me. You can also see one off to the left as well. And so this was also something I was having to sort of factor in with going upwind as well, was I can't just bang corners, which is what my preference would have been on a day like today. But instead I need to sort of dodge these concrete objects in the way as well. So yeah, as you can see here, really kind of fighting the boat. Try to go for attack here, but I just get hit by a wave. I don't turn quickly enough and I lose all my speed, so I just get knocked straight into the headwind. I know straight away it's not going to work, so immediately trying to get the boat going again. And no, I need to take some kicker off if I actually want to be able to get the boat to go through the wind, get that centre of effort forwards again so the boat actually wants to do what I want it to do. There we go, get it through, get myself forwards ASAP, otherwise the boat will stall again. And then once I'm happy, I can get that kicker back on again and get myself out. Now, I feel a little bit more comfortable on this tack compared to the starboard tack. I get myself out there, I go a little bit lower. Now I don't need to pinch for the height so much, I can focus on going a little lower, going for some proper speed, and I seem to catch up with some of the slower boats who've had a fair head start to me now, so you can see a little bit more comfortable, a little bit lower on the trapeze. I probably would have gone a little bit lower again. And yeah, as you can see, going quite nicely now, to be honest. I mean, I'm getting thrown all over the place, and I'm definitely not as fit as I was in the summer, so that's obviously making a bit of an impact here too. But I'm able to sort of, get the boat going quite nicely upwind, sort of. I say nicely broadly, like if it was, 10, 15 knots less, then I probably would feel a lot more happy about how I was going upwind, but I'm happy with how it was going for the conditions we were in. The boat's mostly flat, it's going quite nicely. As you can see, my sail is very flat. I tried my best to really flatten it out to try and depower, because I don't need that much power on a day like today. But as you can see, the boat's going pretty nicely now. The course was a little bit biased. I'm pretty certain that you could do most of it on the port tack. So I tacked pretty early on, mostly to avoid other boats. I wanted to be able to sail in my clear air, mostly just not have to go around obstacles. You can just see there that my main sheet in this sort of weather gets caught around the back corner of my rack. And this is something I've been trying to, sort of try and fix for a while now, where I normally, in anything normal sailing conditions, it's quite easy to have the tail in my backhand and keep flicking it forwards from time to time. I've got enough there that it doesn't get caught, but as you can see, every time I get hit by one of those massive waves, the main sheet just gets tucked all the way over that back corner like it is now, and now it's stuck over that corner again. So you can see I'm trying to go backwards and flick it off again, which is not helping me focus on what I need to, which is the gusts. Instead, I'm focusing on what's going on behind me, which is not helpful. So I keep trying to flick it into the boat, but the amount of spray and splash and all of the stuff coming over the boat is just knocking it all over the place, which is something I need to look into, because I don't have this issue in even like 20 knots of breeze, but yeah, where we were getting like 30 knot gusts, and all of the chop, it was really causing me some problems, which is not ideal. I'm not focusing on what I'm trying to do, the boat's not going in the right sort of direction, and I'm fighting it constantly. So really not what I was after. There we go. I managed to lower myself on the trapeze a bit more, which is good. Get myself a bit more comfortable. Now, one of the problems I keep facing is every time my leeward rack hits the water, the boat really likes to try and head up. It also breaks the boat quite a lot. So all of a sudden you lose a lot of your speed, and the boat tries to head up really quickly as well. And so it's quite crucial to make sure I can keep that leeward rack out the water. And so as soon as it's starting to go, let the main out. And that's the other thing. I can head up to kill some of the speed, but where I'm sailing a little bit more on a close reach, heading up is quite a big move, not just a little tap of the rudder. And so I then run the risk of getting that rack in the water again, which is not really what I want to do. I want to try and keep the boat flat and play the main instead. Whereas, if I do sort of head up a little bit, then the boat starts to really sort of fight me rather than go where I want it to. But yeah, starting to get a little bit more comfortable here. I'm a little bit further back on the rack now, just to stop the nose from digging into the waves and just help it go over them a little bit. Again, still could do with a little bit more board up, but again, it's a balancing act here, because I want to be able to have enough board that I can jump on it when I capsize. Because you're going to factor in on a day like today in a 600, you are going to capsize. It's a matter of when, not if. So with that in mind, you want to make sure that you can jump on it. I'm fighting a lot here. So I think I'm thinking about tacking onto the ley line. Here we go. This was a much better tack. I really take my time, make sure the boat's ready. I stay on the rack for a bit longer, which helps get it through, but I do still a little bit. It's a pretty nasty tack, to be honest. But once I get out, the key thing is getting that weight forward so the boat starts to accelerate again and starts going. But if you accelerate too quickly and you're not out on the rack, then it will fall over. So I did an okay tack there. Now, as we're coming up to this ley line, there's a few things going through my head. I'm catching up to slow boats that are going to attack in front of me. I don't really want to have to try and weave around them. I want to be able to just go where the boat's going to take me and focus on going around the mark. Second thing I've noticed, and you can't quite see it yet, but there's a 29er ahead that's capsized on the windward mark. So now all of a sudden I need to go for a little bit of extra height to factor in two things. One, to be able to go around the mark that now has a 29er sat on top of it. But two, in case I capsize on the mark, I don't capsize onto the 29er and break my boat or hurt them or break their boat. So I'm trying to take a nice wide rounding, but in order to do so, I'm having to go for quite a lot of height here to really make sure that I can clear both obstacles, you could say. The boat's not going quite as quickly, but I am going for a bit more height. Issue is I'm still pretty high on the trapeze on the starboard side, and I've been just too focused on trying to fight the gusts, especially where you don't really get a huge amount of warning, where we're quite close to the dam wall on this side. So the problem we've got here is I'm trying to, too busy occupied trying to play the main here, and I haven't had a chance to get myself settled on the trapeze. And as we're coming up to that windward mark, I also would, want to prep for the reach, preferably get myself low before the reach, because once I'm on the reach and I'm having to really play that main, I'm not going to have a hand to drop myself onto the knot, which, as you'll see in a minute, is exactly where I would have wanted to be. But unfortunately, I was not able to get myself. So there's going past the Enterprise, and I went past one of the Laser 4.7s or Ilka 4s. You can start to see the 29er upside down on the yellow flag windward mark. And so I've got enough height here that I can quite comfortably bear away around it. Now, this is the problem I run into, is I sort of get a bit carried away and bear away too soon, and I should have let the boat naturally sort of want to bear away. So it meant that I let the main out and started to turn a little bit, and the boat just immediately fell over because I had so much power. I'm very grateful that I didn't go through the sail, and I didn't hit the 29er either. I was a bit worried they were going to sail into the top of my mast as they sort of righted the boat. Luckily, they managed to just dodge me, but yeah, I got lucky. I didn't break anything there. Schoolboy error there. I should have really kept on going and then, started to bear away once I was happy. This Ilka 4 here, trying to squeeze in between, just misses the top of my mast, and then the 29er there is still trying to, sort themselves out. So yeah, got to get myself back up, start pulling everything on, but it falls over again as soon as the sail flattens out. Once I'm back in though, I'm ready to go. I'll get that kicker back on because I'm going to need that for making the main slightly manageable, and then getting myself hooked on for this reach. Now, this reach was pretty intense. It was quite broad, which was good. It allowed me to control the power a little bit. But yeah, it's pretty gnarly stuff. There we go. I'm all hooked on. So now I'm just focusing on trying to get myself out and slowly get the power on. So as you can see, in between the gusts, it was a reasonable wind speed, about 20 knots. But as soon as the gust hit, all of a sudden I'm, absolutely going. And there's the 29er guys on the left there, upside down again. Boat's going okay. I could really do it being a little bit low on the trapeze. I can really feel it trying to pull me forwards, and I'd like to have my bum lower to get my center of gravity lower, but we do what we can. And because of this, I am I'm go down to 1 foot on the rack just for a bit of stability. The other issue is, as you can see, I've run out of main sheet. The other end is tied, and I literally can't go any further back. So that's another problem with these sort of conditions. Oh, there we go. Oh yeah, there we go. So yeah. What happened there was, as you can see, I ran out of main sheet, and the issue there was that I couldn't really get myself more comfortable, and I couldn't really play it very well. I only had one hand on it. I couldn't reach it with my other hand, and that's because normally I'm never standing that far back and that far low. So what I really need to do is get a slightly longer main sheet and maybe adjust the length on it depending on the wind conditions. Because the issue is, if I make it longer, it'll get caught on the rack again. If I make it shorter, it won't get caught on the rack, but then in those scenarios when I need to go to the back corner, I can't reach it. So a bit of a boat setup problem there that made it more difficult than I needed. Now, when I capsized, you probably saw I flung myself forwards. Now, I did this intentionally to... I get quite good at it. If I know the boat's going and there's nothing I can do to save it, I will unhook myself and sort of let myself go wherever, so I don't get swung around the front, land on the boat, basically prevent hurting myself and breaking the boat. Now, the issue here was the boat kept going, so I sort of landed in the water probably about 5 meters away from the boat and had to really swim up to catch up with it as it started to drift downwind. Not really what I wanted, but we made it work. And so I've got myself back on the boat. I managed to lose my hat, which I managed to find, because as I went in the water, I went fully submerged, so the hat just stayed. And yeah, there's the camera boat that got a wonderful snap of me getting hit by that gust and not knowing exactly how long it was going to last. Just getting my kicker off, so that a bit of downhaul off too, just so the sail doesn't just flatten, fall straight back into the water. Now, it's all about timing it with the gusts here. If I don't time it right, I won't be able to jump over the rack. If I can't jump over the rack, it's going to be a much, much harder capsize to recover from, because I'll have to climb around to the back and trying to keep the boat stable and generally not trying to bear away, not particularly easy. So getting over the rack is definitely what I want to achieve here. Now, it doesn't help that my centerboard is also not all the way through, so I can't get the leverage I need. But as you can see, the master's out the water, so I shouldn't have too many problems here. Here we go. Okay, I'm about to jump over. No, thinking about it. Oh, there we go. So getting myself back in the boat. So I went past the second mark. There's the 29er that's about to go past the second mark. You can see them in the corner. They're about to hoist their kite and go past me, but spoiler alert, I make the jibe, but they don't, so I get back past them again. So back in the boat now, time to get myself sorted, think about pulling the controls on. Now, if I had a sort of sensible brain on and felt a bit more confident, which I definitely didn't right now, I would probably take a bit of kicker off and go downwind and try and soak it a little bit more. But as you'll see in a second, I focus on just trying to go as sort of safely and as calmly as I can. Went for a comfortable approach downwind rather than a fast approach, especially after this gnarly capsize. Yeah, boat's just not wanting to bear away. As you can see, I'm just trying my best to get it to go back onto starboard so that when I bear away, I can sort of follow the 29er guys who've now got their kite up and take it down to that right-hand corner and then jibe so I can take the reach in one go without only having to do more than one jibe. There we go. So I've got myself going. I don't have huge amounts of kicker on, but I've just pulled a chunk on from the rack. And yeah, I mean, I'm still going pretty quickly, to be fair. But yeah, I don't really try very hard to make the boat go quick at this point. I'm just trying to conserve my energy a little bit. If I was feeling a bit more, risky, I could take a bit of kicker off, bit of downhaul off, get my weight a little bit further forwards, but not much, and just try and go as low as I physically could with the boat. And the issue there is death rolling, very likely, as it's such a wobbly boat. So yeah, downwind, we're going nicely. I'm trying to think about when I want to jibe, especially because there's a few of these concrete water towers. You can see one off to the right and one to the left as well. I'm thinking I want to jibe ideally once I've gone past the ley line, but I also want to make sure I don't have to sort of dodge one of these towers. The wind shadow from them as well, I imagine, will be pretty nasty. If you've ever been to somewhere like Rutland, where the water tower is quite in the middle, that can be quite a shock to your system if you go past it to where the water tower's to windward of you, and all of a sudden you just lose all the power in your sails because they're quite wide. Grafham's water tower's not too bad where I'm from because they're right off to the sides, so you don't really find yourself going round them very often, but Rutland's like right in the middle. You can't really dodge it. It's probably in the middle of your beat or down your run. So yeah, boat's going quite nicely here downwind. As you can see, it's pretty wobbly over the waves, so I'm just trying my best to like keep things going nicely. I want to make sure that I can take the jibe comfortably, and so once we get past this water tower, I'm starting to think, let's go for the jibe, but I don't want to rush into it, because I know if I rush into it, it's going to end badly, and it's quicker to take it nice and slow and come out the other side than to go swimming. Now, I do think to myself, I can go, oh, that's pretty gnarly. Yeah, you can see the waves just from the wind. Is crazy for a reservoir that is really not that big. Here we go. I try and go for the jibe. The boat says no. And as you can see, it's really wobbling. I know straight away I need to bail out. If I try and go for it, it's not going to go. There we go. I was successful that time, but pretty gnarly exit there. You can see him out and bend on my mast from the kickers. Pretty gruesome, to be honest. Now, the 29er guys are capsized at this point, so I've managed to get back past them, but I'm just trying to keep things stable and keep things going so I can focus on going downwind. But I'm thinking, how's this broad reach going to work? Do I need to hook on? Am I good sat here? How broad is it? Because I do need to get forwards to get my trapeze hook and get myself hooked on. And then the other thing as well is when you're going on those really broad reaches, it's really unstable. Once you're on the rack going upwind, like, oh, it's a breeze to control. But on the really broad stuff, it's really quite difficult to like find a good place for yourself so that the boat's not too wobbly. There's not, a little movement can really cause a lot of wobble, which is not ideal, especially in the conditions like these where you just, 1 minute you need to be out on the rack and the next minute you don't, and that's quite hard to manage. There you go. Ooh, I go for the so I try and go for the trapeze hook to get myself ready for that broad reach, knowing that that's what the 600 is really good at. But the boat wobbled too much and death rolled and then turtled over. And this is where I decided to retire. Once I righted the boat, I just could not get myself up onto the centerboard. And so I ran out of energy completely, was absolutely exhausted. So I decided that I needed to retire, and that was going to be the end of my day. A good reflection that I should work on my fitness going into 2025 to get myself back to where I was in the summer. But, overall good fun experience in the end.